This is Grumpy SEO Guy, episode 24, all about SEO pricing models and how to not get ripped off as a buyer and as a seller. You're listening to Grumpy SEO Guy, the SEO podcast that doesn't waste your time with nonsense that doesn't work. I'm the Grumpy SEO Guy, and I'm sharing with you the strategies that have helped me successfully run my SEO agency for the last 14 years. In this podcast, I'll be sharing my knowledge and experience, discussing tips and strategies, and trying to help you cut through the confusion that permeates this industry. If you listen to this podcast, you will know more about SEO than 99% of people on the planet. Ready? Let's get started. I'm the Grumpy SEO Guy. Let me tell you why I'm grumpy today. I'm grumpy today because not only is SEO confusing, but figuring out how it should even be priced is confusing. So today we're going to take a look at some of the different pricing models that you might encounter for SEO, and we're going to talk about them both from a buyer's standpoint and from a seller's standpoint, okay? Because I know that some of you are SEO providers, and I know that some of you are also looking to hire an SEO agency or consultant. So I think it's very important in this case that both kinds of people understand how SEO should be priced. Okay, let's get started. But before we do that, my lawyer tells me that I have to say this right now. A quick disclaimer before we get started, everything I say here is based on my experience and opinion from 14 years in the industry. I don't officially know how Google or any other search engines work. Everything I say here is hypothetical and based on my experience. This podcast does not constitute advice or services. What worked for me may or may not work for you. Okay, back to the show. Now, I just want to be clear, up front, we're not going to talk about specific numbers, okay? So in this episode, I'm not going to say SEO should cost this much per month or you should pay this much, okay? Because that's a different topic. We're going to talk about pricing models. Okay, what does that mean? Pricing models are things like, should you pay a flat rate? Should you pay hourly? Should you pay per project? Should you pay per performance? And by the way, that last one, should you pay per performance? We're going to talk about that one because that's a very hot topic in the SEO industry. Okay, let's get started. So I'm just going to explain some of the different pricing models that exist. I'm going to explain which ones I have used, what I think about them, and just things that you need to be aware of. We're also going to talk about another common SEO scam, except this one is from buyers, okay? Most of the SEO scams that we've talked about so far, actually, I think all of the SEO scams that we've talked about so far are from sellers. They're from shady agencies and shady SEO providers. In this episode, we're going to talk about a scam from shady SEO buyers, okay? And by the way, if you're curious about more SEO scams, you can listen to episode 9, which is 6 of the most common SEO scams. Okay, anyways, now let's talk about payments. So the first type of SEO payment, and the simplest and easiest to understand, is a flat rate. Okay, so a flat rate just means a certain amount of money for a certain product or service. It's very straightforward. There's no wiggle room. Now, I'm not talking about negotiation, whatever. Sometimes that happens. We might talk more about that later. But I just mean you buy a thing, it costs this much money. For example, you want to buy 5 backlinks? Okay, that costs this much money per month. You want to buy 10 backlinks? Okay, that costs this much money per month. It's very easy. For the first 8 or 9 years that I did SEO, I only did flat rates. It's so easy, there's no confusion, and it makes it very easy to publicize your prices on marketplaces or on your website or wherever. And while we're talking about this, have you ever seen the website of an SEO agency and there's a contact form and there's a drop down and it says, what is your SEO budget? And then there's $2,000 to $3,000 per month, $3,000 to $5,000 per month, $5,000 to $10,000 per month. Hey, don't you think maybe you should tell me what you guys do before we talk prices? Maybe? Otherwise, it might seem a little bit sneaky, wouldn't it? Trying to figure out what somebody can spend before you tell them how much it's going to cost. Now, I understand the counter argument to this is, well, if people don't have a certain amount of money, we probably won't be able to help them. I totally get it. If the smallest package you offer is $3,000 per month and somebody doesn't have $3,000 per month, I totally understand that it might not work with them as a client. I totally get that. But here's the thing. That's not what these people are screening for, because otherwise they wouldn't have different price levels. If your minimum dollar amount that a client needs to spend is $3,000 per month, you wouldn't say, what is your SEO budget? $1,000 to $2,000, $2,000 to $5,000, $5,000 to $10,000. You wouldn't phrase it that way because that doesn't answer the question of, are they above the minimum budget? So something just seems dishonest when people try to figure out how much somebody can spend before they tell them how much it's going to cost. And having flat rate prices completely solves this problem. And I understand that every project is different, okay? And maybe you can't necessarily do it that way. But during the time that we were exclusively a backlink provider, it was never a problem for us ever, okay? This many links cost this much money. That many links cost that much money. Pretty straightforward. Now, there's one exception to that. And actually, now that I think about it, it's not even really an exception. I was going to say the one exception to my flat rate pricing is when I would do consulting, which I would charge an hourly rate. However, people were still buying those in increments of 1 hour. So technically, it was still a flat rate, I suppose. By consulting, I generally mean a phone call or a meeting where people are asking me questions and I'm answering their questions and they're paying me for my time, basically. But as far as doing SEO, and by doing SEO, I mean link building. Let's just be clear. By doing SEO, I mean 99% link building. When we're actually doing SEO, it's almost assuredly a flat rate. Now, so I think if you're doing something like buying or selling backlinks, it should definitely be a flat rate. Now, just as a little reminder, because I've talked about this before, and I actually have an entire episode on this topic. If you're buying backlinks, it should be a monthly payment. There is no way that anybody can ever sell you one-time backlink payments or lifetime backlinks and not have it be a scam, okay? If you ever see a one-time payment for backlinks, it is definitely scammy, okay? Don't even talk to that person, much less buy anything from them. And if you're curious about that, episode 10 is why one-time payments or lifetime backlinks are always a scam. I'm not going to get into that now, however, because there's literally an entire episode on it. So just go download that episode if you want to learn more. Okay, what's another type of payment that SEO people tend to use? Hourly payments. Hourly payments are pretty straightforward. I mean, you're paying somebody to do things and you're paying them based on how long it takes them. Now, I have never really done hourly with the exception of some consulting that I've talked about, which is hourly because they're just paying for my time, basically. Okay, but like, I can't see how SEO could be done in an hourly standpoint, especially link building, okay? Because I feel like if you were paying somebody hourly, they would just not go very fast, so they make more money. That sounds terrible. So I don't know. Look, I will say there's probably exceptions to this. For example, if you're changing somebody's website and there's a problem and you don't know how to code what you need to do and you have to go research it, maybe the argument could be made that you pay the person for their time while they're researching for your project, okay? But I mean, do you trust the person? If you trust the person, that's probably okay. But like ultimately, I don't know. Like link building should never be hourly. That just sounds super suspicious. So that's really all I'm going to say about hourly. When I do consulting though, like I said, that's hourly. It's people pay me per hour. I've done a couple other projects where I estimated an amount of time and I told the people how much time I thought it would take and they paid based on that. And, but like really, I don't know. I just don't see SEO being an hourly thing. And I'm sure there's agencies out there that do it hourly, but that just sounds weird to me. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Okay, now I want to talk about recurring payments versus one-time payments. Now, I've already said that link building has to be monthly or yearly. You can do yearly if you want. Look, sometimes we will do yearly, and I have even been known to give a discount when people pay a year in advance. I don't have a problem with that. In fact, I think that's pretty decent business. They're giving you more money up front, you're giving them a discount. Look, anybody can work out whatever deal they want with anyone. Like, it doesn't matter. But I'm just saying, monthly or yearly, because I don't want somebody to be like, well, you said backlinks have to be monthly. Look, yearly is fine, okay? But monthly works too. Monthly is probably more common anyway. Makes it easier to cancel if anybody needs to cancel. And I say anybody because sometimes the seller needs to cancel too if you get a shady client who's doing things that they shouldn't be doing. That's a different topic. Okay. Monthly versus one-time payments. There are some things that can be a one-time payment. if somebody's doing an analysis of your site, that could totally be a one-time payment, okay? Maybe they're looking over your on-page stuff. Maybe they're looking at your technical SEO stuff. Maybe they're doing an analysis of your backlinks. Now, I didn't say they're building backlinks. I said they're doing an analysis of your backlinks, okay? That could be a one-time thing. It is very common that SEO agencies and consultants will offer an analysis or an assessment, which is a flat rate, okay? It's a one-time payment. Pay us this much money and we do an assessment. That's fine. But if it's something like backlink building or maintaining the links online, yeah, that's got to be monthly. Okay, now I want to switch directions a little bit, and I want to tell you about a scam that I have encountered from time to time. Now, all the scams that we've talked about so far have been from shady SEO consultants and from shady SEO providers. This scam is from shady SEO buyers, okay? I have gotten this kind of email many times before. I'm going to tell you about it so you know what to look out for, and I'm going to tell you how to handle it. So if you're offering SEO services, you might get an email that says, hey, we're such and such, some big website, whatever. We buy a lot of SEO services. If you give us some backlinks, or whatever it is you're offering, if you give us some backlinks for free or at some like massively reduced price, we will buy a lot from you in the future. Okay. Terrible deal. Don't agree to it. Let me explain to you what they're trying to do, and then I'm going to tell you how I handle that situation. Let me just be very clear. They're not a big website, okay? And they probably don't buy a lot of SEO, but what they are looking for is free SEO. So what happens is they email everybody, and there's probably a couple fools who fall for it and say, oh, this sounds like a good way to prove my skills, and they do some free SEO work. And you know what? I guarantee you they never hear from that person again. And so that person just got some free SEO work. So good job doing stuff and not making any money from it. And just a little side note here, I'm not saying that I have never worked for free. So all they're doing is they're emailing everybody, and a couple people might agree to it to give them some free sample backlinks, or whatever. And well, that person just got some free backlinks then. So yeah, they basically scammed you, and they scammed a couple people probably, which means they probably got, a fair amount of backlinks that they didn't pay for, and they have no intention of ever buying from you, much less buying a lot from you like they claimed. Oh, if you do us some sample work and we like it, we'll buy so much from you. Yeah, no, they won't. It's a scam. This is how I handle it. I say, hey, that's cool. Listen, we actually have some clients that do a lot of volume with us, and we are more than happy to provide discounts on large orders. Our discounts start at such and such discount for this many packages. And you never hear from them again, obviously, because they're not looking to buy in bulk. They're looking to get free backlinks. Anyway, that is true though. Like, I will give discounts on bulk purchases. I don't, it's good business. I don't have a problem with that. Not like enormous discounts, but we've had clients that, bought a lot of backlinks from us from multiple websites, gave them some good discounts. We've had clients that repeatedly bought more and more and more from us every month. No problem giving them discounts. It's fine. But I'm just saying, somebody right off the bat wanting a huge discount in exchange for doing a lot of business with you in the future. So that's a scam. Don't fall for it. Okay. I want to give a little bit more information now about monthly payments, because I bet there's somebody listening to this who is really, really fixated on hourly. Okay. And if that's the case, you're really going to hate what I have to say right now. I'm just letting you know. Okay. So this is another phenomenon that we experience, and part of why we do monthly payments for things like backlinks. Okay. And I've mentioned this in another episode, but I'm going to mention it again now because I really feel that there are some listeners out there that can't even imagine this situation could ever happen. So I'm just going to explain it to you. Let's say we get a new client. Okay. Let's say we get a new client. We're going to build them some backlinks. So what's involved in that? Well, first, we will pick some sites from our portfolio of authoritative blogs that we're going to use for them. Second, we'll create content to put on our sites. And third, we'll put the backlinks in the correct places with the proper anchor text. And let me just define anchor text for you, because I want to make sure that everybody knows what I'm talking about. Anchor text is when you have a backlink. Anchor text refers to the words that are the backlink. So if you say, click here to buy blue widgets, and you can click on those words, like you put the cursor on it and it underlines or it changes color or whatever, like it's actually the link, click here to buy blue widgets, then click here to buy blue widgets is the anchor text. Okay, anchor text just refers to whatever words are clickable in a link. Anyway, so we get the anchor text and everything. Let's say that first month that we're building these backlinks for these clients on our websites. Let's say we could spend 20 hours, okay, doing that. It's kind of a lot of work, okay? It can be. So let's say 20 hours. Let's say it's a couple months down the road. Maybe they bought a big link package, okay? And it took a while to get all their links in place. And remember, if you remember from the other episodes, you don't want to go too fast. So just because somebody buys a big backlink package doesn't mean we do it all at once. That would be a terrible idea. But I'm not going to get more into that now because there's more episodes that explain that. Anyway, let's say a couple months from the time they become a client, all their backlinks are online, everything is good, and they're paying us. They're paying us monthly for these backlinks. That first month was like 20 hours, right? Maybe by month 3 or 4, it's only 30 minutes. Why? Well, because everything is online, all the content has been created, all the backlinks are in place, everything is good. It just takes a little bit of time each month to go and confirm that everything is working the way it should be. Can you imagine if we charged hourly for that, for 30 minutes? We couldn't stay in business. That wouldn't work. That just, you can't do it that way. So they're paying for a thing, which is backlinks and link juice and authority. By the way, link juice and authority are pretty much the same thing. And more to the point, and I'm going to illustrate this with a story in a minute. They're paying for our resources and our expertise and our knowledge. They're paying for us having created this portfolio of blogs that they can use, okay? They're not paying for the 30 minutes to confirm that their articles and links are still where they're supposed to be, okay? No, they're paying for everything that we did before that so that they can even do it now, okay? Let me give you an example. One of my colleagues told me this story when I was at my co-working space. And it's one of those stories that's kind of silly, but like completely illustrates a point. So here's the story. Anyway, you might know the story, but I don't know. I'm just gonna tell it anyway. So here's the story. This guy has a leaky faucet and he calls a plumber, and this plumber comes over and he can't fix it. So the guy calls another plumber, and this other plumber comes over and he can't fix it either. So finally, this guy calls a third plumber, and the third plumber comes over and he looks under the sink and he reaches under it and he grabs the pipe and he pulls it a little bit, and then he takes his hand out and he takes a wrench off of his belt and he sticks the wrench under the sink and he taps on the pipe a little bit, and suddenly the leak is fixed and all the problems are gone. And the plumber says, that'll be $400. And the guy says, what, $400? You took 2 minutes to fix that. And the plumber says, yeah, it's $5 for the amount of time that I spent fixing it, and it's $395 for having the knowledge to know exactly what to do and be able to fix it for you at all. That's the way SEO works. You're not paying us whatever monthly rate you're paying us for the 30 minutes that it takes to go, verify that everything is still the way it should be every month. You're paying us because we've spent years setting up a portfolio for you to be able to use in the first place. That's how it works. Okay, there's another kind of payment that I want to talk about because this one gets mentioned all the time in SEO, and it sounds like a great idea until you realize that it is not a great idea. Okay, that is this: pay per performance. Okay, what does that mean? That means, well, we're only going to pay you guys if we get to the top of the search engines. I mean, sounds like a good idea. Honestly, it sounds like a good idea, right? I mean, if you've ever asked this question, if you've ever been working with an SEO agency and asked them, hey, how about we only give you money if you actually get us to the top of the search engines? Don't feel silly, because that is a great question. I'm not even joking. That I would probably ask that question if I were buying SEO from somebody. That just seems smart. Why should I pay for a thing if it doesn't work? Makes perfect sense. Okay, from a seller's perspective, I have a few problems with that. Let me go over them. I have a problem with that because even if we did the most amazing work and definitely got them to the top of the search engines, I would not even expect them to actually pay. Why? Because this is the SEO industry we're dealing with, and people are shady, and I don't think people would pay you after the fact for your work. I honestly don't, okay? You might be listening to this and think, well, why wouldn't they pay you? Did the work. yeah, the SEO industry is full of shadiness. The entire internet marketing industry, by the way, is full of shadiness. I would never trust anyone to do anything, like honestly, especially pay you after you've done work. On that note, we never do work unless we get paid up front. Like literally, unless I'm doing something for free, which on occasion I have been known to do, I'll never do anything unless I get paid up front. And the only exception to that isn't even like an actual exception, but I'm going to tell you this because I feel like this might help somebody. On occasion, and I mean very seldom in 14 years, very seldom, this has probably happened like a couple times. We get a client who says, hey, we're interested, but, we've been ripped off by SEO agencies before. We're not comfortable giving you all the money up front. Can we pay you like half up front and half upon completion? My response to that is this. You can pay us half up front. We will do half of the work. When we have done half of the work, we will send it to you. You can look at it and make sure that we actually did the stuff we said we were going to do. Then you can pay us the second half, and then we will finish the work. Nobody ever had a problem with that. And the couple people who wanted to agree to those terms, they all paid. They all got all of their work done. Everything was good. And I understand why somebody might think that, because the SEO industry is full of liars. So it makes perfect sense that somebody would want to do it that way. Fortunately, not a lot of people wanted to do it that way. But if you ever have somebody who wants to pay you half up front and half upon completion, I would probably suggest what I just told you instead. Pay half, do half the work, pay the second half, do the rest of the work, but make sure that you do something so they can confirm that you actually did the work, because that's probably what they're worried about, okay? So pay half, do half the work, give them that half of the work so they can see it and know that you're not ripping them off, receive the second half of the payment, and then complete the work. Anyways, it's pretty easy, I think. Okay, so back to pay per performance. I don't have any confidence that the person would actually pay us even if we did all the work. So like that's like, even if you don't even pay attention to the rest of the reasons, that reason is big enough to me that I would not do pay per performance. Okay, but what's another reason? Well, pay per performance basically says this. If you get us to number 1, we'll pay you this much. If you get us to number 2, we'll pay you this much. If you get us to number 3, we'll pay you this much, and so on. Okay, cool. But my question is, for how long and on what data centers? So for example, let's say if we get you to number 1, you'll pay us a certain amount of money. Okay, well, what if you're there for 27 days of the month, and then for 2 days you're in position 2, and for 2 days you're in position 3? Well, how much is that? Are you going to prorate everything? Are you going to do the math and divide it out? I mean, it's not really a big deal, but it sounds pretty annoying. And what about what data centers? What if I search for you and it looks like you're on number 1, but somebody in a different physical setting searches for you and you're not on number 1, maybe you're number 5. Well, who's right? Are you in number 5 or are you in number 1? I don't want to deal with that. So that's a big no from me. And while we're talking about pay per performance, there's one other version that I see mentioned from time to time, and that is this. Hey, do the SEO work for us. If it increases our revenue, we'll give you a certain percentage of the revenue over like a certain amount. So for example, say somebody is making $10,000 a month. I'm just making up numbers, you guys, right now, like $10,000 a month, okay? And maybe they're in like position 5 or something. And then they say, hey, if you do the SEO for us, we'll give you 5% of everything we make over $10,000 per month. Like whatever. I just made those numbers up, but you get the point, right? Like I'm just using like arbitrary numbers here, but you get the point, right? So then you do the SEO work for them and you get them to number 1, and instead of making $10,000 a month, they're making $20,000 a month, and you're getting 5% of that. I don't know. It sounds like the same thing as me. I would have the same objections to that. Well, I guess not the same objections, because that one's not really based upon rank. But like, are they really going to pay you? Or are they going to come up with like weird excuses? Because I feel like people love to come up with excuses for why they can't pay you. So that's why I don't ever do it that way. Look, you can do it that way if you want. But I wouldn't. I don't know, but I would never agree to any pay per performance thing ever, for the reasons I mentioned, even though it sounds like a good idea, and even though as a buyer, it's completely fine if you ask. I would never agree to it. I mean, I guess you might find somebody that agrees to it, but I don't know. Like, I don't know. On that note, though, one of our very first clients. Okay, this is funny. It's funny to me. Nobody else is going to think so. One of our one of our very first clients. So you remember how I said in many episodes I've mentioned that a large percentage of our clients are SEO agencies who don't do backlinking themselves, but instead outsource it to my agency. Okay, it's a whole other topic. I could talk about that for a while. Anyways, one of our very first clients was an SEO agency who, wait for it, did pay per performance. So isn't that funny that like an SEO agency, first of all, isn't even doing their own backlink building? That's weird. But they're a pay-per-performance SEO agency who, and I don't remember their exact keywords because this was like 14 years ago, but it was probably something like pay for rank SEO. Like, I don't know. I could go look it up, but I'm not going to. But I don't know. Those probably weren't the keywords, but it was something like that. And we got them from like, I feel like they were number 8 to like number 3. Like, I honestly can't remember. But anyway, the whole reason that I remember this is because this guy, when I was building my reputation on the marketplace where I used to get business from, this guy posted a comment that said something along the lines of, we're an SEO agency and we hire this guy to do our SEO for us. What does that tell you about him, or something like that? And I'm like, that's a really good compliment, but why are SEO agencies not doing SEO themselves? And then I learned about how most SEO agencies don't even do the SEO themselves. Whole separate topic. Anyways, so there are SEO agencies out there that will do it this way. I don't know what to tell you. And more to the point, we never got any other work from that guy. So maybe he just never got any clients or found somebody cheaper. I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, I can recall, I did see one other agency that did pay per performance like a year later. I remember just thinking it was weird. Like, that's an interesting model that they use. And I remember this website. Look, 100% I don't remember what they were called, but even if I did, I wouldn't share their name here because I don't do that on my podcast. But they had a page on their website where you could type in your keywords and they would tell you how much it would cost to get to a number 1 ranking. And like, it doesn't, like, SEO doesn't work that way. Like, there's a 0% chance that their numbers were true or anything. Like, you can't tell. Like, AdSense, like, yeah. Like you can't tell. SEO doesn't work that way. Even back in like 2010, when I'm talking about, like, it still didn't work that way. You can't possibly look at something and calculate how much money it's going to cost to outrank somebody. Like, it doesn't work that way. But if it did, first of all, it would completely change the SEO industry. But it would also like destroy the SEO industry because like nobody knows that. And then that's such a bizarre picture for me to think about. Like, okay, imagine it's possible to figure out how much it would cost to rank for a certain keyword, right? So you go to an SEO agency and they're like, oh, it'll be $5,000. And then like you rank for that. But then because you're already paying somebody $5,000 to do that, then if somebody else, like your competition, wants to rank for that same keyword, they go to like another SEO agency and they're like, okay, we want to rank for this keyword. And that SEO agency like runs the formulas and they're like, okay, it's going to be $7,000 to get to number 1. And they're like, okay, let's do it. So then they pay them $7,000 and get to the number 1 position. But then that first company that's no longer at the top because somebody else just paid somebody else more to outrank them is like, hey, wait a minute, you said $5,000 and we'd be number 1, but look, we're number 2 now and we're still paying you $5,000 a month. And they're like, oh yeah, well that's because this other thing happened and now it's going to be $8,000. Like what a mess. SEO doesn't work that way. So like what an absolute just mess that would be if it worked that way. So I'm glad it doesn't. Anyway, so those are the main types of payments. You've got flat rate, you've got hourly, you've got monthly, and we talked about monthly versus one-time payments, and then you've got pay per performance. Anyway, so those are the main payment models that are associated with SEO. There's a couple more. They're not really like common though, so there's probably not any reason to get into them. But I want to talk about discounts really quickly. I've already mentioned this a little bit earlier, but look, if somebody is like a repeat customer, if somebody's doing like massive volume with us, you know what? I have no problem giving them a discount because you know what? They're being a good customer. So that's cool. It's literally not a problem. But like I mentioned, no huge discounts on your first order because that doesn't make any sense. Like, no, Just not going to do that. Not well, if you give us big discounts, we'll buy a lot more in the future. No, but when you buy a lot more in the future, we'll give you discounts. Do you see what the difference is? Okay. If you've got a question about another payment model that we haven't discussed here, email me, hello@grumpyseoguy.com, and share with me what the payment model is and how it works, and I might talk about it on a future episode. But like I said, the ones that we mentioned here today, they're probably the ones that you're going to see, like, if you're dealing with SEO agencies. So I can't really think of anything else that you might encounter. So anyway, that is the end of the payment model discussion. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you enjoy this podcast, please leave a review. It would really help the show out. I hope this episode is helpful. And if you have any questions, or if there's anything that you want me to talk about on a future episode, you can email me at hello@grumpyseoguy.com. And I'll talk to you later. You're listening to Grumpy SEO Guy, the SEO podcast that doesn't waste your time with nonsense that doesn't work. Join us next Wednesday when we talk about how to tell if you're making bad SEO decisions.